Welcome everyone to Black Men Speak. I'm your co-host, D. J.R. Stewart.
And I'm your co-host, D. Tommy D. Duncan III, otherwise known as TD3. It is Wednesday night, September the 10th, 2025. And if it's Wednesday night,
And certainly Black Men Speak. So let's give a thanks to and shout out to Count Basic for providing our theme music. Also to 4S Films in our own studio, providing our studio. And with that being, and if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share. And if you're here watching the show live, invite a friend, family member, co-worker to come watch the show with you so you guys will have something interesting to talk about for tomorrow and Friday. That being said, Tom, let's do what we do best, which is bring the leading edge information about the Black community to social media.
all right, folks, we want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. Of course, we're going to have another fun show and appreciate your support moving forward. Of course, glad to have Jimmy back after a couple of weeks out and back.
5 long weeks, Tom.
That's a long time, man. That is a long
Yes.
time, but glad to definitely have you back. So, we have no condolences to shout out this week, so that, of course, is good news. But what we will do this week, Jimmy, is start out with a little news in education, something we both have a lot of passion for, and of course, that is the education of our students, Jimmy. So let's go ahead and get started with a little bit of news in education, then we'll go on
Okay.
to other stories. First, interestingly enough, it looks like, no surprise, U.S. students, this is based upon nationwide scores, have lost ground in reading and math. A decade long slide in high schoolers' reading and math performance has persisted during even the COVID pandemic, which of course I knew after talking to a lot of
Well,
students.
COVID made it worse, Tom.
Yeah,
A lot of people, a lot of kids stayed out of school and out of the classroom.
exactly. 12th grader scores dropping to their lowest level in more than 20 years, just 20 years. Eighth grade students also lost significant ground in science, according to the National Assessment of Education Progress Report. The assessments were the first since the pandemic for eighth graders in science and first time for 12th graders in reading and math. They reflect a downward drift across grade levels and subject areas in previous areas of the NAEP. Experts indicate falling scores are part of a longer arc in education that can't be solely attributed to the COVID pandemic, school closures, or related issues. Many educators are saying that potential underlying factors include children's increased screen time, that is, on these mobile phones, shortened attention spans as a result, and the declining in reading longer form writing like books like we had to do when we were growing up, Jimmy.
Well, Tom, we need to get back to the basics. First of all, we need to get rid of these summer vacations. 3 months during
No
the
summer
summer.
vacations, Jimmy.
No summer vacation need to be year-round school, Tom. Tom, we can't afford to take 3 months off, and the little bit that you learn during the school year, you forget it over the summertime because you're not using it. So we need to go to a year-round. The reason they introduced summer vacation is so kids can go help their parents on the farm. That paradigm doesn't exist anymore. So there's no reason to keep summer vacation in place, giving kids 3 months off when you're already falling behind. The other thing, Tom, is that they're going to find a new way to teach kids. Maybe the classroom is not the best way. Maybe staying your butt at home and doing a virtual online classroom, getting AI to teach the class. I don't know. Maybe some robotics can do it better. But evidently, the old methodology of going to a classroom, reading the books, having a teacher stand in front of everyone doesn't seem to be working because our kids are getting dumber and dumber by the
Dumber, dumber.
generation.
Well, Jimmy, I would say that unfortunately, I saw this trajectory over 30 years ago. When not so long after I graduated from college, after getting a couple of degrees, I did some substitute teaching for a couple of years. And one of the things that I noticed was that students were less proficient in what I would call the fundamentals, that being math, that being reading, because again, if you don't read proficiently, if you don't have the fundamentals of math, everything else is going to be very difficult for you. One of the things that I remember was a struggle for a lot of teachers during that period of time were the standardized tests, where it got to a point where the metrics for promotions in the school administrators had to do with test taking results.
Yes, it still
As many-
does.
They were teaching to the test. They were
Yes.
not teaching to learn. They were teaching to the test. And so as a result of that, unfortunately, a lot of kids were just being taught how to take the test, how to get over on the test. They weren't being taught the fundamentals. Jimmy, if you could not, if they took a calculator away from them, they couldn't do any math problems without a
Right.
calculator. They did no graphing. They weren't really reading for comprehension. And this has been going downhill for a very long time.
That is true, Tom. And unfortunately, our kids are adversely affected by technology, by cell phone, by video games, by having too much outside of school activity going on in a social life, where school is just secondary, third, fourth, fifth on the priority list, and parents are not pulling out the belt and a paddle to enforce to make school priority number one. But I tell you what, for all these kids that are wasting time in school, there are a bunch of kids over in the Middle East and Asia, in Africa, that will come here, gladly go to the classroom, gladly do the work, and gladly kick ass over the American students who don't seem to value a good education, Tom. So I'm not sure what this is about. It seemed like all these what Gen Zs, Gen Ys, they all want to get paid, make big bucks, live large, but no one want to do the heavy work, the heavy lifting to get to the big paycheck. You want to stay at home in mama's basement. You want to go to a job, do half-ass work, get maximum pay, and live large, and drink your $5 Starbucks lattes.
Jimmy, there are a couple of things, in my opinion, that this is attributed to. One is that we are underfunding education across this country. We spend trillions of dollars on beefing up our military expertise, but we're not willing to fund the best education in the world. After World War II, the United States
How much more
became.
money do we have to spend, Tom? We already spend more money per student than any other nation.
I understand that, but when you consider that most other nations are third world countries with a few,
Okay, and Vietnam kicks
and,
our
and,
ass,
and,
China kicks our ass,
I
Japan
understand,
kicks our ass,
I
and they don't
understand,
spend nowhere near the amount of money. And you know what? In China, uh, Tom, they go to school for 14 hours a day.
agree.
I mean, they
Well, agree.
yeah, I mean, they stay, they come in the morning, they study, they take classes all day, and at 6 o'clock they get dinner and they do their homework at school. Sometimes these kids don't get home till 9, 10 o'clock at night. I mean, this is how serious they are about education. And guess where their rejects come? Their
To the United
rejects come
States,
to
to
the
the United States,
U.S.
right?
And become valedictorians of our schools, mess up the grading curve, and that's their rejects, Tom. The ones who couldn't cut it in the Chinese schools.
And they're wiping up our kids.
They're
They're
wiping them
wiping up
off
our
the
kids.
map, Tom.
But this is the point that I'm trying to make in general. Where your priorities are, your money shall go. And the United States has not made education a top priority. I'm not saying that we're
Well,
not
that's why I ask
spending.
you, Tom, how much money
I
should we
understand.
put? How
If,
much money
if,
should we commit to education for a failing system?
I would say when you look at all the money that we're spending in military, you can take some of that money. But this is my point. We do not prioritize education, and I think it is absolutely by design that we are, to your point, dumbing down our students in education because, quite frankly, you're not going to need that many brilliant students when they're going to be taken over by technology, unfortunately, now and in the very near future. What they are going to want are people who are consumers and people who are compliant. And so that is what I have seen going on. Unfortunately, that does not bode well for our community because we are always at the very bottom of the totem pole when it comes to economics, when it comes to politics, and when it comes to education. And so this is going to impact us disproportionately. All I'm saying is this. At the end of the day, where your priorities are, your money will go. If the United States at a federal or a state level wants to fix this problem, they know how to fix it. My take is they don't want to fix it. Now, this is the other thing. We've talked about this several times. When it comes to parenting, that's a second problem. There are no consequences. The teachers, in a lot of cases, do not have the authority or the power to control their own classrooms. The students actually have more power than the teachers. That is a massive problem. The students know that, so they know they can do whatever they want to and get away with it. And then when you look at a kid who has poor behavior in the classroom, all you have to do is call home and you figure out why when you talk to the parent.
Well, unfortunately, that's true, Tom, except I would switch that up and make parenting number one. Um, I believe the Trump administration is going to really much abolish the Department of Education here, either during the next fiscal year or certainly thereafter, um, and allocate that money back, like 30 some billion dollars back to the states. So that should be an infusion of cash right there back to all 50 states to improve education, to spend the money on how they see fit. But here's the thing, Tom, you did hit this on a home run. Um, the system, the powers that be, uh, uh, really don't want a smart uh, population out there. And the reason being is because they don't want the average everyday kid competing with their kids. They're going to make sure their kids do their work, study, get into the right schools. And the fewer that you have that are successful means less competition for their kids. But on
Agreed.
top of that, like you said,
And their kids are going to private school.
yes, and so when the population is easy to be brainwashed and fooled and manipulated and misguided, that means that those in power have even more control when they can get their messages out through social media, through television, put it on the cell phone, and once it hits social media, everyone just accepts it and believes it. And so that's just another control mechanism. That's why it's time to get the belt out, take away these damn cell phones. Um, Somehow, we survive without a cell phone, having quarters in our pocket, having to go to a payphone to call people, leaving voicemail messages on a tape machine. But now everybody has to have voicemail messages. They have to have email. They have to have chat. They have to have video chat. You even have video mail now, and all at your fingertips. And our kids are dumber than ever. And somehow parents don't see the correlation between giving your kids too much and creating a crutch for them, and the fact that they're not learning anything. Like I said, Tom, we've all gone to the store and given change, a little bit too much change to a cashier, and they can't figure out how to add a dime or an extra penny to your change that they're supposed to give you back because the cash register says 94 cents. You give them 6 cents, and they're standing looking crazy, like a deer in the headlight. Like, what do I do? They end up giving you the change plus your dollar back. Um, they're so concerned, man. And it's a shame that, like you said, our kids can't do basic math without a damn calculator.
It's bad. Parents have to get involved. They have to be the first teachers at home, but also they have to hold the schools accountable. But they have to hold themselves accountable for making sure that their children are learning. And if they are in a bad school system, then they may have to make some tough choices in order to make sure that their kids are prepared to compete against a global.
Global. The workforce is global now. So
Correct.
it's not just your kids competing against other American kids. Your kids are competing against a global workforce. And one last thing, Tom, that I was going to say is, and now I lost my train of thought, but it'll come back to me. So when it comes back to me, I'll jump in and throw it out.
All right, good deal. We'll go on to our next, and we'll keep it very brief. Another one in education, a little bit more positive news. Officials say, and we're talking about the state of Texas, that in the wake of Texas's new cell phone ban in public K-12 schools, students have become more engaged in and outside of classroom. The ban on cell phones, laptops, and tablets has prompted Texas more than 1,200 school districts to adopt policies ranging from secure device pouches to increased monitoring. While some officials were concerned that schools would face pushback from students and parents, administrators from across the state at least said that has not happened on the most part. Instead, school officials say they're seeing signs of positive change after years of concerns that cell phones and addictive social media apps distracted students during instructional time. I have long said that, the classroom is no place for a cell phone. I know
No
kids may
place.
say if there's an emergency, they need to be able to contact their parents, or, if there's, God forbid, some shooter or something like that, they need to be able to contact somebody. But on the most part, cell phones and technology, unless they are contributing to the education process, have become a distraction.
But Tom, when you can put your book up, and the point I was going to make before that if the school's not doing a good job of educating your child, you may want to consider a charter school. You can afford it, a private school or a home school. But on the cell phone front, Tom, you can sit in the back of the class, put your book up, and the teacher never knows that you're playing around on your cell phone, especially if you turn the volume down. Um, and so I'm glad to see that Texas is trying to ban cell phones in the classroom, or at least the use of them. If you put it away in a pouch, hide in your book bag, your backpack, that's fine. It's there for emergencies, so you can reach your parents if something happens. But other than that, we know these kids are looking up answers, asking, Siri
On
and
Chat GPT, getting the answer.
Chat GPT getting the answers, or go ask Google for an answer. And so that's not what the cell phone is for. Our kids are losing their ability to be able to think and to be able to reason their way through a problem. And that's a problem because these kids are going to take over the country at some point.
God forbid. Because I would say this, Jimmy. If you as a parent have your children in a school that you don't trust to educate your children, to keep your children safe, you may need to consider taking that child out of that school and taking them to another school district, another school, or
I agree.
homeschooling them.
Definitely, I think some kids do better homeschooled, but then even the homeschool parents are starting to organize and come together to have events that all of the parents kind of get together and organize and plan for their kids, trips to the library and museum, so the kids don't feel left out, like they're just so isolated. But then with online technology and video conferencing time, um, we may have to consider doing things a little differently than kids going to a classroom and sitting, because they don't want to sit now. They don't have the attention span to sit for 45 to 50 minutes in somebody's class and learn. Um, now when everything is fast paced on that cell phone or their tablet. So,
Gotcha. I got a couple of comments on the chat line. Miss Tanya, hey y'all. Glad to see you here, Jimmy. All right, good
hey,
deal.
Miss Tanya, thank you very much.
Good deal. Miss Cousin Audrey K, good evening to you as well. Thank you for
Cousin Audrey.
and Miss Marion Square, related to these artists, says other countries pull from the top of the class. The other people do labor. They compete for jobs and have high stress. Some die of stress on jobs. Otherwise, what she's saying, in some other countries, your future, like the totality of your future, is determined by your scores
True.
on these nationwide tests. And if you don't do so well, you know what? You're stuck for the rest of your
You
life.
you may be stirring fried rice in the restaurant, Tom,
Period.
or
And you have no
picking
other
up
option.
trash off the street. But that's how serious it is. Versus here in America, these kids don't think it's that serious. They don't see the need. And in marrying a teacher, she's still in education.
No, she is not. I don't believe she's in education.
I thought she was educated. I'm sorry. Um, But the comment is absolutely correct, Tom. So this is the time for our kids to buckle down, Tom. And as things are being watered down, the curriculum is being watered down to get more kids over the damn bar so they can pass and get a worthless high school diploma. This is the time our kids need to be trying to excel, because it's easier now to be a top student when everything is watered down. Back in our day, or probably my grandparents' day, it was a little tougher. You had to actually work and do some work. Now, Tom, I think if I was in high school, I could probably spend an hour a day after school rather than 3, 4 hours that I used to, um, and be a straight A student. So I wouldn't be concerned about these damn Asian kids coming over here, uh, taking me off the honor roll or the dean's list or competing for top honors. I'd be right there with them. So if I couldn't beat them, I'd certainly be studying with them.
True that. True that. All right, let's get to some other stories in national news. I think this story has been around for a few days, Jimmy, but two teenagers in a D.C. shooting have been arrested last Friday on murder charges in the killing of a congressional intern who was struck by a stray bullet during a shooting in the nation's capital, a crime that the president cited in announcing a law enforcement surge in Washington. Eric Terpinian Jakim, I believe is his name, of Granbury, Massachusetts, was fatally shot on the night of June the 30th. So this was a while ago near Washington's Mount Vernon Square. Both suspects in his killing, Kevin Thomas Jr. and Jalen Lucas, are 17-year-old juveniles, but are charged as adults in first-degree murder while armed, according to the U.S. Attorney Janine Pirro. Police are searching
Yeah,
for a third suspect whose name and age were not immediately released.
yeah. The third suspect is on the run. They're still searching for him. But yes, Janine Pirro used to be a judge, and then she was a host on Fox, and now she's the attorney, U.S. attorney for D.C. And she made the decision that rather than these kids being charged as juveniles, which means they'll probably be out in 3 years, that she was charging them as adults. You do adult deeds, you play adult games, you get adult rewards. So your reward may be life in prison if you're found guilty. By the time I saw his family being interviewed, his mother and father, and he talked about how happy he was to be going to Washington to become an intern, taking a little break from school, and what an honor it was, and to be struck down that close to the White House. Um, I mean, it's just a shame, man. It's always with these drive-by shootings, these gang shootings, it's always the innocent people catching the damn bullets. Somehow they need to learn if you're gonna be a gang banger and be shooting at people, go to the goddamn pistol range and learn how to goddamn shoot so you can hit your damn target. I mean, two gang bangers shooting at each other, I don't care. Who kills who shoots who, it doesn't even matter. But somehow y'all bullets are always hitting innocent people, kids and wives and people just walking down the street trying to duck bullets as best they can. They're the ones always paying the goddamn price for your ass not being able to shoot straight.
This is what, unfortunately, is called collateral damage from the articles that I've read. Obviously, they were targeting somebody else. I think a couple of kids they were riding
Yes,
a
they
bike,
were.
and then the stray bullet hit him. Actually, there was another lady who was hit. Fortunately, she did not die. Of course, no story on her, whomever that was. But in this case, a young man lost his life, and it's a very unfortunate situation. But in certain cities, things happen, and reality of it is we've had several conversations in terms of access to guns, access to jobs, access to an environment that may not be teaching the best lessons in terms of what the future of your life looks like, because unfortunately for these young men, more than likely, they're done
Okay,
because
Tom,
they're
let's
down the
let's
high profile.
let's keep it real, man. Some real talk. Let's be honest. Gang bangers are not out here looking for jobs. So whether you have a job or not have jobs, gangbangers are not trying to go. In fact, um, they think people who go to work every day are suckers because they can sit back and sling dope and victimize people and collect their money, versus the rest of us have to go out there and earn it, working every day, putting up with all kind of crap. God knows what kind of crap we have to put up with on the work at the workplace to earn a living. So jobs is not the issue. I don't even think money is the issue, other than not having enough law enforcement available or interested in doing their jobs to go kick down some doors, put some cuffs on people, and start taking them off the street. The problem is we have too many criminals on the street. So the reduction in crime in D.C. is a direct result of pulling almost 1,400 criminals off the street who are no longer able to victimize people. And people may say, well, it's only for 30 days. But you know what? Those 14, 13, those 1,200, because some of them are immigrants who are just here illegally, about half of them. But even the 7,800 true criminals that you pulled off the street means there are 7,800 people that are not able to go out and victimize other people. So that's a huge impact. And the streets will replace them. Once they go to jail and get off the streets, trust me, there are another 7,800 in the next wave to take their place. But it's going to take a little while for that younger generation to rise up, learn the art of the craft of victimizing people, being a parasite, sucking the blood out of society, to learn their skill. But what we can do in the meantime, Tom, is as many times as we have to call in the National Guard, let police do their job of being able to go out and arrest people, serve warrants, investigate crimes. Whereas now they're out patrolling, just trying to stamp things down. Let the goddamn other federal enforcement, law enforcement, do that and help out, and then let the National Guard be on patrol be eyes and ears to calling in crimes as they see it. You'd be surprised when people are looking, and the criminals know that there are people looking. How apt, how they're not willing to commit as many crimes when people are looking. They like doing this stuff in the dark, behind the scenes. So let's put a spotlight on them, Tom. I would even say we need to go back to maybe doing some public hangings, man, or putting the arrest in the newspaper to publicly embarrass people. So maybe if you're gonna know that you and your family may be embarrassed because your paper, your name, and your photos in the newspaper, maybe you may think about taking that job that you talked about, or going back to school.
Well, I have a different perspectives on this because I don't think anyone was born a criminal. What I believe is that unfortunately that happens to people over time based upon their social environment, based upon opportunities. I think the majority of young people do not want to be a part of gangs, but many of them become a part of gangs because they feel they have no options. Some of them do it for protection. So instead of being in the street and vulnerable and becoming victimized by gangs, they would rather be a part of an organization that they feel is going to protect them as opposed to being lonely on the streets and probably get taken out at some point in time if they don't have that protection around them. So on the most part, yeah, again, nobody was born a gangster, but I do believe that criminal activity is the byproduct of, on the most part, environment. But we can't really say that about the criminals in running the state houses and or the federal government. That's another criminal aspect altogether. But all that being said, Jimmy, is that starts at home. Your home environment, having a stable home environment has something to do with, and being in an environment where you have a better chance of being able to get through school, being able to make something productive out of yourself, being able to start and maintain a family because your whole mindset set shifts when you bring young people into the world. And at the end of the day, Jimmy, this is not a problem that's ever going to be solved because the United States actually profits and benefits from criminal activity because eventually they get a chance to incarcerate people where they get free labor. So there are people who make
Okay,
money.
Tom, society has no choice but to protect itself, build jails, hire police. That's just part of the process. But on top of that, Tom, we have uh, uh, mega superstars like Snoop Dogg promoting the Crip Walk, the Crip Life, and I believe he's a Crip, and other celebrities who are members of gang. All they're doing is showing the glamour, how glamorous it is to be part of a gang. And you don't think that our young kids don't see this. So that needs, just like we don't allow cigarette companies and some liquor companies, hard liquor companies, to advertise to kids, we should allow, it should be against the law, criminal, for you to go out there and promote gang life, thug life, and on TV doing the crip walk, on video. Because all you're doing is influencing kids. They think that this is the way to go. Snoop Dogg can be a crip, and look how it worked out for him. And all these other celebrities are either affiliated with a gang or a member of a gang. A lot of times they hire these gangs. I didn't know this when they come in town and perform. They hire the damn gangs for security, as if they're not security companies out there that can protect your ass. You're gonna take your money and to promote a gang to protect you. I mean, come on, man. We're doing this to ourselves, Tom. We can continue to blame the system all we want, but the reality is, when your kids are young, that's the time to pull the belt out, get a paddle out, the switch, and start enforcing some rules around there. And rule number one is you will go to school, get a good education, make good grades. If you don't make good grades, you and the belt are going to have a destiny, and it won't be pleasant for you afterwards. And if that's how I have to motivate you, fine. And I can reward you afterwards for making good grades, taking you to Six Flags, putting a few coins in your pocket, buying you the tennis shoes that you want. But you got to go in and do the work. But if you don't, I have to get your attention because we're not going to go through school failing. And you got to do this early on. I guarantee you, Tom, one good ass whooping in elementary school will take you all the way through middle school and high school and forge remembrance. And if you got the beating correctly, short of losing your life, at least you think you were going to die afterwards. That's what we got to get back to. Forget calling Child Protective Service when they come to the door asking you if you did you beat your child. Yes, I beat them because the grades were bad. They need to just do a U-turn and walk away at that point and say, okay, well, we understand. Not this, I'm going to take your child away, have parents scared to discipline their children or to enforce the rules. Like you said, in the classroom, the teacher don't control the classroom. Why? Because the students know that they can go complain, file a complaint, and that complaint means more than their bad-ass grades and them not learning. That's what people pay attention to. And unfortunately, we live in the upside down world now where the damn inmates and the crazy folks are running these jails and the asylum. And our kids are running things. And Tom, there's a reason why we don't allow kids to sign contracts or be in charge because they little crazy ass not mature enough to run stuff. But we got parents letting them run a household. We got teachers letting them run a classroom. We need to teach our teachers how to box, some some kung fu or karate, and put the paddles back into the classroom. That's where it was when I was going through school, except for high school. But elementary and junior high, teachers had paddles on their damn desk. And when you cut up, if they didn't want to see you to the principal's office, they dealt with it right there, but you've been over their damn desk. They didn't have to send notes home. They were able to get your attention when you didn't do your homework or fail the test. We need to go back to corporal punishment. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it has to be.
Well, unfortunately, the teachers and the administrators don't have that type of authority these days, and so as a result, there is no solution in the school districts because the students have more power than the teachers and or the administrators do. A teacher who attempts to address a student in a certain way because they are being unruly and disrupting the classroom could lose their job, lose their benefits, and lose their livelihood because of a student who is being unruly. But that is the way it is on the most part. And in terms of the the violence in our communities, obviously, it's kind of a foregone conclusion that poor communities have more violence than wealthier communities. And quite frankly, poverty is created. We understand that because this country itself has several experiments on creating poverty, and as a result of poverty, there are less opportunities, there are less jobs, and so people go to illicit means that are penalized in order to go from hand to mouth, in order to survive. And there are legal criminal institutions and there are illegal criminal institutions, and unfortunately poor neighborhoods usually are the homes of illegal institutions such as what we call gangs. But let's be very clear and keep it 100. There are gangs that are of course in Washington D.C., and we're not talking about gang violence, we're talking about in the federal government and in some cases the state government. So all that being said, we definitely want to
Tom,
see
you
that
keep bringing it back to government. Okay, if you look, take a nation like Japan, wealthy nation, but they have a large poor population, and they have a large. The middle class in Japan, a single working person pays almost 70% of their money just to pay for a place to stay. And when they stay in, you look at those little rooms, just enough to put a bed in there and a little bit of table so we can eat, and maybe a little refrigerator. And that's pretty much it. That's how most of the middle class live. Single middle class kids who just come out of school working. So they have a lot less than we do. They have poor people, Tom, but they have the lowest crime rate in the world. So
Agreed.
poverty does not drive up a crime rate in a lot of these impoverished countries, third world countries that are very poor. They don't necessarily have high crime rates as a result of poverty. That's an excuse here because kids know that they can get away with the crime. When you're in Malaysia, for instance,
Certain students know they can get away with the crime, certain students don't.
in Malaysia, they have some of the toughest sentences, and they have public beatings in Malaysia. If you jaywalk, if you throw trash on the street, if you commit any kind of crime or infraction, you may be subject to being tied to a pole and given 15 to 20 lashes in front of everyone. As a result, Tom, they have very low crime rate because and because people know there's going to be a consequence, a severe consequence for
Are
jaywalking.
you saying that there's no consequence to crime in the United
I'm
States?
saying it's very little when you have only 5% conviction rate in Chicago for murder. What worse is incentive for you not to kill
Okay, well,
somebody?
the consequences are
What's the
dire for
consequence
some.
there in Chicago for
Okay,
murder?
the consequences are dire for certain communities and not so for other communities.
Yeah, well, Chicago had to be one of
No,
those
now,
on
now,
the
now, those, now those are the facts because I mean that is evidenced by if you black, and you have a little bit of weed, you're going to probably get a pretty harsher penalty than someone if you are white and you have heroin. But it's the same essence of crime. But there are certain communities that are going to be penalized much harsher than others. And we already know that African Americans are overrepresented in our jails and in our prisons for the same crimes as other communities. That's just a fact.
Okay, Tom, here's another fact, at least for your county. 'Cause, you live in Dallas County, correct?
I do.
Okay. Now I have a cousin who's a judge down there, and when I talk to Vonda, she'll tell you that some of the damn toughest judges down there in Dallas County are the black judges. You know, as
Okay.
far as giving probation, sending people to rehab, giving people second and third chances. A lot of the white counterparts do that, but a lot of the black judges are very heavy-handed on black criminals. So
I can believe that.
a lot of what you're talking about, once again, come back to us. We should have better understanding of our situation and what our people go through. But I agree that that shouldn't be um, a crutch. That that's not an excuse to go out and commit crime. You don't have an excuse to victimize
I would
society
agree
simply
because
because
I
you're
mean,
poor.
right.
If
I would
you're
agree.
poor, go out and make some things happen for you on the legal side. If you can't find a job, you need to find a hustle. You need to find a way to make some money, collect cans, newspapers, start your own little business. Hell, we chronicle a kid who was making popcorn down in his parents' basement and became wealthy. You know, where he was able to put his damn parents to work. So there's no telling in the land of opportunity, Tom, of what's available to you. You may fail a few times, and so what? Keep trying. That's better than going out and victimizing people and taking something that's not yours
Oh,
and end up in prison.
I don't disagree with you at all on that subject. We're on the same page with that.
So, so our kids so once again we have American populace that's microwave mentality because they want everything quick. Nobody
And
wants to
whose
work
fault is
for.
that?
That's our society for as a whole. No one wants to work for it, sweat for it, fret for it, plan for it, and go out and I can't think of his name. He used to be married to Gladys Knight, motivational speaker.
Oh, you're talking. I know who you're talking about.
Les Brown.
Yeah, Les
If
Brown.
you want things bad enough to go out and fight for it, to work day and night for it, to give up your time, your sleep, and something else for it. And if you gladly sweat for it, for lose all your terror of the opposition for it, um, and if you simply go after the things you want with all your capacity, strength, and sagacity, faith, hope, and confidence, and stern pertinacity, dogged and grim you, besiege you, beset it, and with the hope of God, you'll get it. I mean, that was his closing. I know I missed a few words in there, but when he used to close out speeches, I used to study motivational speakers to try to learn how to become one. But but yeah, that was his, and it made a lot of sense. But basically, you have to just go out there and get it done, Tom. Make it happen, just like Nike says. Just do it on the legal side, not on the criminal side.
Well, those can be blurred, but let's keep it moving. Next story.
Next
North
story.
Carolina man arrested for threatening to shoot school with preschool black children. A North Carolina man is facing federal charges after allegedly threatening to carry out a racially motivated shooting at a black preschool. Zachary Charles Newell, 25, was arrested on Monday this week and charged with one count of making an interstate threat to kidnap or injure in connection with an online threat against black preschool schoolers made on YouTube. The case opened Sunday after Google's cybercrime team alerted federal authorities about a disturbing YouTube comment posted by a user named Commentators Hate Me. The comment basically read, "I'm gonna shoot up black preschool, 20 black babies will be shot and then skinned like the animals they are." The comment was left under a video of a Florida-based YouTuber who had discussed an incident involving Rajah Jackson, a black MMA fighter who had injured a white pro wrestler during a sports match. Saying the amount of pain and suffering black people are about to suffer makes me so happy. The comment read. The FBI traced the account to Newell using information provided by Google, including an email address, recovery data, phone number, and IP address. When sheriff's deputies visited the home and questioned Newell about the threats, He admitted to posting the YouTube comments. He is scheduled for appearance in federal court actually today. If convicted, he faces up to 5 years behind bars. I thought this was kind of intriguing because I mean it was just a couple of weeks ago or a week or so ago that we talked about the other young man who shot through a church and shot these children and these senior citizens.
So
And
you may be sensitive because of what happened a couple of weeks ago, Tom, but this is not much of a threat. This is just somebody boasting.
oh, it's not a threat. Someone who says he's going to do something is not a
Yeah,
potential threat.
yeah, he wasn't going to do it. Tom, he didn't buy a gun. He didn't load up. He didn't put on a vest. He didn't actually go to a school and scope it out. He didn't identify what school. He was just talking, blowing off. And in the end, when they look at when they do the psyche valve on him, and they look at the emotional, mental capacity of him and his emotion that got the best of him, Tom, this will get reduced down. I'd be surprised if he served 6 months in county. And when this
I,
is
I,
all
I,
said and
I
done,
would I would not be surprised either. Jimmy, are you saying wait till he's killed the children and
I'm
then it's
saying
a serious
that
threat?
they're overcharging. Sometimes this happens to charge somebody with assault and kidnapping when you haven't even taken action. He hadn't snatched up any
So
kids.
wait until they actually killed some preschool, some defenseless preschool children.
That's how our system works. You can't. There was that movie I don't know with Tom Cruise with the pre something these three women that could kind of predict when a crime was going to happen and they would go and arrest you before you committed the crime. We don't live in that society, Tom. You don't necessarily get punished for what you may do, what you're thinking about doing. It
So,
is
so what
illegal.
you so what you're
It
saying
is,
is don't. So
it
what
is
you're saying
a
is
threat.
don't take the threat seriously.
I'm saying until there has to be some other steps. I mean, they could have waited to see if he actually buys a gun. Do you own a gun? This threat is enough for the red laws for them to go execute a search warrant in his house to see if he own a weapon. If he does, they could have confiscated the weapon and possibly taken him in for a psyche valve and held him for 90 days. But if he doesn't own a weapon, unless you go to the gun store to buy one, buy some ammo, that's the time you take action, not because someone blowing off steam making some foolish threat online. You got people who feel this way but don't say anything. I much rather have a society where these people feel comfortable verbalizing how they feel about black people and what they want to do, so we can keep an eye on them. If he had kept quiet and went out there and actually scouted a school, went and bought a gun, automatic gun, bought a bunch of them, that's worse than what he did. Okay, him and all the rest of them. Y'all keep posting on YouTube, Facebook, on social media, just so we can identify who you are and keep an eye on you. And the first time we see you going towards a damn gun store, or we execute a warrant to make sure you don't have a gun in your house or possession, and then send you in for a psyche valve. Holding you for 90 days may be enough to medicate your ass when you come out that you're no longer a threat to yourself or anyone else. But throwing him in jail is only going to piss him off for 6 months. He may come out of jail and actually carry through with it. So I'm
Well,
just
Jimmy, that's the reason why there's actually legislation for hate crimes. And again, I guess we can apologize and say blow it off because it happens to be certain communities.
Tom, what crime is not a hate crime? Come on.
Well,
Well,
no, if
people who commit crimes
Jimmy,
against you
with- ba-
don't love you,
based
don't like
upon for a law and order type of person, if you're saying if you're targeting a specific group, then yeah, that's called a hate crime.
you. Yes, if you
Targeting
act,
a specific group.
if you target and commit the crime against them.
Oh,
Uh,
wait till he kills some preschool children, and then okay,
so
now we can arrest him.
threatening to take action, Tom,
That's
it
enough.
is different if you threaten a specific person. If I threaten you, that can be construed as assault. But if I'm just pissed off in general, that hey, I've only had two car accidents in my life. Both times, it was with illegal alien of Hispanic descent with no damn insurance. If I was to say, God damn it, I hate goddamn Hispanics, illegal aliens who of Hispanic descent, because they ain't ran into my car twice, I wish all of them would die. Would
No,
that
no,
be, should I go to jail for that
there's a
statement?
difference between saying I wish they would die and saying I'm going to do something.
Well, you true. That is a point.
That's a
So,
difference. And
um,
he made an explicit threat saying what he was going to do.
assault and kidnapping time when you hadn't snatched up anybody is going to be because you combine the two charges.
Now, I would say maybe his crime was being dumb, more so than
Oh, it's
anything
definitely
else.
being dumb. Yes.
However, if they have evidence, credible evidence that somebody could potentially do something, you don't wait until little kids are killed, or even adults for that matter, to say, "Oops."
No, Tom, you have to keep an eye on them. You have to catch them in the act. You cannot simply because you suspect. I mean, I
Oh,
can go down. I
but
can ride down the street and
or,
suspect
I
Pookie
would
and them are gonna rob me if I were to get out of my car, or Pookie and them out there selling dope. But unless I catch them actually doing it, it's a different story.
You're correct, Jimmy. And unfortunately, by the time that happens, people are already dead. Just like the woman that not a scope of tonight's show, who actually was trying to get an order for her husband. Well, I guess they were separated, whatever the case is. Trying to get a court order to keep him away from her. They didn't do anything about it. She's gone.
It happens, Tom. But unfortunately, she did the right
It
thing.
happens.
It does happen, Tom. Yes,
I it
people
happens,
violate restraining orders all the
when law
time.
enforcement doesn't take these things seriously and they have a credible threat, this sister's gone.
Yes, Tom, and
You
she
can't
had a
bring her back.
restraining order that he violated. But there's nothing they can do until he actually violates and breaks the law. But by that
Until he
time, it's
kills
too late. Yes,
her. And that is a
that's
failure
unfortunate.
of the system that you have to wait
That is.
you have to wait until the sister's dead until they do something.
Unfortunately, Tom, we're not Brandon Johnson with 150 police protecting us and our families. The rest of us got to take care of ourselves sometime. And unfortunately, law enforcement is not going to get involved until after the fact. Having the police, I love for them to sit in front of my house, escort us to the store, and as we move around. That'd be great. But unfortunately, there are not enough police to personally guard everybody. So all they can do is wait until a crime has been committed, go investigate it, and arrest the people and try to punish them to the best of their ability. So yes, if you consider it a failure for the system not to protect you in advance, then the system doesn't protect any of us in advance unless you're Brandon Johnson.
It protects some people and it doesn't protect others. But
Yeah, it protects Brandon Johnson with his 150 police officers that could be on the street patrolling, protecting people, but they're protecting him and his. Why is one goddamn person and his wife and two kids need that many damn cops to protect them? I mean, answer me that. I mean,
saying that your former and current president had people protecting
he's
him
a president. He got Secret Service.
and his
That's
family
what
and
they're there
other
for. But you gonna tell me that a mayor needs 150 officers
if there's a credible
in
threat,
a city where people are being,
that is a municipal or state issue, and if
you
there's a
got
credible
double
threat,
digit
yeah,
shootings on the weekends in the black areas, not the white areas, but the black areas, and then
of
you got the
course,
mayor
and that's
occupying
part of the point.
150 officers. Come on.
That's part of the point.
Yeah. Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I
Protect
said,
him, but
we
forget
got
about the
about
rest of us. If you're on the south side of the
we,
west
we,
side.
10 minutes left, Jimmy. I was hoping we'd have a little bit more
Oh,
time
you
for
know what?
sports.
One of our
But
viewers wanted me to mention that speaking of North Carolina, a little segue, that a lady was stabbed on the commuter train in North Carolina. Um, and unfortunately, I mean, this wasn't a white on black crime, which we normally report on. So this was a black on white crime. So we're going to be fair
okay,
and balanced here, and we're going to report them as we hear about them. All crime is bad. Um,
agree.
so and for
Agreed.
someone to
And
go
maybe and maybe if this country was not reinforcing a culture of violence for the profit of corporations, we wouldn't have as many of these core stories. But since corporations have to make their profits, you have to have violence.
well, I'm just sorry this lady didn't have a pistol in her purse. That she saw the person approaching her with a damn knife that she could have reached in her purse and unloaded on her. And that'd just be
Well,
one less.
you got CNN and Fox and all these other outlets who, of course, they report on those types of things. We got to report on the stuff that
But like you said, law enforcement is not protecting us. So
Agreed.
we should have the right to protect ourselves.
Agreed. I
So
would agree.
everybody need to be
I would agree
packing.
with that. And we report on the stories that unfortunately the Foxes and the CNNs and the CNBCs ain't going to report on. So that's the point that we even talk about these stories because ain't
But the
nobody else going to
bigger
talk
point,
about
you're
it.
talking about the profit, these corporations profiting from this.
Yeah.
Everybody need to be packing. So that way, when folks got a line and they know you packing, they're probably less apt, less likely to go deal with you or do something against you.
I
Like I
agree.
said, I wish
I
this
agree.
lady had a little 20, well, not a 22, but something a little more powerful, a snub nose 44 in her purse. And as she saw him approaching, if she saw him coming at her, to pull it out of her purse and just unload all 6 rounds into his chest. And we'd have one less crazy person on the street to deal with. Because if he didn't victimize her, God knows if he can just go stab somebody at random, he would have got somebody else. He's probably had victimized other people. It's probably not his first time. And then they didn't say what the rap sheet was, but I guess we'll find out later. Anyway, Tom, we didn't even talk any sports, and we need to
We got about
at least
10 minutes. Of course,
we
we
talk
got
a little bit of Cowboys.
there's a lot to talk about, but we'll try to keep it narrow with the interest of time. Of course, last Thursday, first game of the NFL season, you had the Cowboys and the Eagles, and of course, you had the game. Then you had the biggest story, which was this what we call Spitgate.
Well, Tom, I don't know if that was the biggest story. To me, the biggest story and the biggest outcome of that game is that we were one fumble and 2 drop passes away from winning that game. In fact, if we don't fumble the ball on the goal line, we go in and score, we take the lead. The Eagles didn't score in the fourth quarter. There's a good chance we would have held on to that lead the way our defense was playing. The other good
That
takeaway,
ain't what happened.
that is what happened.
No, what I'm saying is that ain't happened. All that stuff didn't happen, so the Eagles
Oh,
won.
it didn't happen. You're right. And so then the other takeaway is that Hurd did not beat us with his arm. He did beat us with his legs. He was outside. He was able to get outside the containment and run the ball. And then we were able to keep Saquon Barkley in check. He did have 2 good runs, but for the most, and he got outside on one of those to make a good game. But for the most part, we held him under 100 yards rushing. We held the quarterback in check. We had to
I
run.
think yeah, Jalen Hurts had about 65 yards. Saquon Barkley had about 60 yards. I think Jalen actually had more yards than he did.
Yes, he
Of
did.
course,
The top,
one
the
of the
yards
big
that Hurd had are the ones that hurt us, that moved the chain and scored.
say what now?
So
Repeat
the
that.
ones that Jalen, his yards
Yeah.
are the ones that moved the
Well,
chain and
Cowboys
scored.
the Cowboys could not stop Philadelphia's run game. Every third and fourth and short, they
No,
just
when we hold Saquon Barkley at 65 yards, that is holding the run,
no, no,
stopping the
no.
run game.
Okay, Jimmy. When it came down to we need to have it, we need to stop Philadelphia.
Yeah, the quarterback got the better of him.
Cowboys could not stop Philadelphia when they needed to stop
So
Philadelphia.
Jalen did keep the chains moving and keep it going, but that's a good testament to the fact that our secondary did their part to force the quarterback into run situation. And I heard that the Cowboys signed a kid. What is his name? Clowney is his name. I can't. The first name starts with a D. Some strange name that we give our kids. Devashane Clowney,
I have
who's
no idea. You
He's
know,
an edge. He's an edge rusher, first round pick from years ago, Pro Bowl
oh,
type.
you talking about Cloudy from South Carolina?
Yeah,
That dude is 75 years old, man.
he's not 75 times. He is
Damn,
an age. He is a veteran with
what I'm
experience.
saying is, in football years, he is very, very
He
old
is, Tommy. He's in his
and well
30s.
past his prime.
But here's the thing: is that the problem that we have?
Jadavion Clowney,
Yeah.
Jadavion.
So the problem that we had against Philadelphia was not them running between the tackles because they tried, and so
They
we
did.
stuck.
They tried and they did
We
several times.
stuck them down. The problem we had was on the edge, especially number 53. I think his name is Williams, coming in committing too soon and letting the quarterback and Saquon get outside of him. They bringing in Clowning because at least he has a knowledge and experience. Maybe he can do some coaching for our young guys to hold your place. You can't necessarily let lose containment. You got to keep them in the middle where we have a chance at making a play. Once they get past
Jerry,
you,
how much did Jerry sign Jadavion Clowney for?
I'm sure it's for the minimum time because nobody was
Please
out
don't
there
tell me
trying
he
to get
gave him
big
any real
money.
money.
But here's what we need, Tom. we have a very young team, especially on defense, and they played hard. I give them credit. They
Hard
made
don't count, man. Wins do.
they made a couple of mistakes that cost them a game. And so if you can sign someone on the cheap to come into the locker room to be the make a few plays, but on top of that to help coach the younger guys on how to maintain containment, because he can do that. He was good at that. So he may not be leading the league in sacks. We don't need him to do that. We got some other guys that can rush the passer, get rushes, get sacked. What we need is not on that right side of the damn defensive line. We can't lose containment because that's where we lost containment a couple of times. So we need to be able to watch the film and do something about that. And the Cowboys are being proactive in trying to address that. So give them a little credit. They were supposed to get blown out by a veteran Philadelphia team.
Well, you know what? That possibly could happen, but when you lose your best defensive player, when
The
you
best
lose, matter of fact,
Philadelphia could
when
do
you
is to beat us on a turnover and by 4 points. That's it. With all the
Jimmy,
damn stars they have.
when a team loses their best interior defensive lineman and their best interior offensive lineman, then no, it ain't gonna be the same.
That's on their stupidity. If they don't coach
Jalen,
the players better.
look, Jalen Carter is their best defensive player, period. And then of course there is the I think it was I forgot whether it's the tackle. They ended up losing him at the beginning of at
Okay,
very
Tom, that's just poor condition and stupidity. What we
no,
they
yeah,
just
you're
won
right.
the game.
You're right, but that makes a difference.
And in fact, this guy, I hate to call him a kid, but that's what he is, big grown kid, has a history of doing stupid things. In Philadelphia, you need to take that into consideration because I know he wants to a big supermax contract.
You're talking about Jalen Carter, the guy who got
Yeah,
yeah,
he's waiting for a big payday. But when you keep doing stupid stuff to jeopardize your team,
he's got to get a payday from somebody, whether it's Philadelphia or not.
well, if whoever give him the big payday time with him being stupid like that is on them. And so, and if he does something stupid to jeopardize, put your team in harm's way, then that's on you for signing him.
Well, so be it. But I think it was a great first weekend of NFL football. You had a lot of good games. In addition to the Cowboys and Eagles, you had the Ravens and the Bills. I would say the meltdown of the Ravens
The
again in
Ravens
every game.
continue to have meltdowns and lose games that they should win. They should have won that game. There's no
Yeah,
reason why they
no
should
doubt
lose.
about that. I will say this. I was quite inspired by the play of both the Steelers and the Jets. Of course, the Jets with new coach Aaron Glenn that came from Detroit Lions. Of course, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers with the elder statesman coach Mike Tomlin. Of course, you have Aaron Rodgers who looked pretty good
And
on
he
the
looked
field.
pretty good against the
And
Jets.
so
Yes.
that game could have gone either way. And I didn't see the game, but the Bengals Brown, I was expecting the Bengals to blow out the Browns, and I was surprised that the Bengals only beat the Browns by 1 point.
Well, I didn't see that game. I did watch Chicago and Minnesota.
I saw
And
that last
I
night as
actually
well.
found
And
myself
Chicago,
cheering.
look, Chicago definitely looks better. I don't think they're ready to take the division, but they definitely look better than last year because they were horrible last year.
I found myself cheering for them simply because how horrible they were last year and the improvements they made. And they held the lead for damn near 3.5 quarters before Minnesota just kind of warmed down a little bit and took over the game. Um, but they have a lot that they can be proud of to build on for the future. Now, just keep making improvements. And that you took Minnesota who had the best defense in the league last year, and you damn near for 3.5 quarters, you took them to task and were beating them. So just continue to improve on what you do best, make some tweak the stuff that you did badly or poorly, and you may have a fighting chance in that division.
We will definitely see about that, and we'll see what happens this upcoming weekend. Who do your Cowboys play this weekend?
The Giants, that's a
Oh,
guaranteed
that
win.
that that, that should be a no-brainer. If the Cowboys, of course, should be double-digit winners on that. Russell Wilson, yeah, I don't know that he does that much to help them, and I don't think Jackson.
Well, even okay, even if he plays pretty good, he doesn't have a lot of talent around him. Tom, let's just be honest. The Giants are still in the damn dumps.
They are.
I watched a little bit of the highlights from them when they played the Commanders, and it just wasn't a whole lot to be excited about. So we should be able to take that game easily, like you said, double-digit win. So we shall see.
All right, Jimmy. Well, that is what we got tonight. We want to thank everybody for joining us this evening. We actually got it in within an hour. Make sure you share this content with someone, like it if you haven't already, and subscribe, folks. And we appreciate your support and your love. Want to, of course, give a shout out. Let me see if there's anybody else on the. Oh man, we got Brother Freddie Roberts on the
That's
chat line.
quiet.
Thank him for joining us. We've got who else? Telling you there was a time we had that type of punishment. It was called slavery for black folks. I don't know exactly what Miss Tanya was talking to, but yeah, that was a thing. We get beat for trying to. Yeah, we did get beat or for get your foot cut
We
off.
ain't, we ain't talking about going back to slavery. We talking about some corporal punishment in the classroom. Bringing
We
the
got
paddle back.
we got Miss Carol on the line. Chicago's had the highest murder rate for the last 13 years, but that has gone down. Let me see, Miss Tanya. Most everything serial killer has gone online before they killed somebody, giving innuendos and direct threats of what they're going to. Yeah, they have done that for sure. And yeah, Miss Carol, the black guy that stabbed and killed the white woman on the train in North Carolina, had been charged and or arrested 14 times, and they kept letting him go. Last time I checked, North Carolina was a red state. I don't know what happened
A
there.
snub nose 44 would have dealt with that.
And
Took care
Chastity,
of
oh,
that.
Miss Chastity is there as well. Thank you for joining us this evening. And of course, our good friend, Uncle Asar, our cable line as well, for joining us this evening. Always has great responses as well. So we will see you next week on the
Sorry.
17th of September, folks.
Yes, we will.
Because if it's
And
Wednesday,
ladies out there, if you live in a high crime area, get your snub nose 44 Magnum and put it in your purse. You need something with some stopping power. Don't be fooling around with these little 22s where a person can shoot you and still victimize you. You know, you want when you put a bullet in someone, you want to knock them backwards. So that snub nose 44 would do it for you. That's my advice.
all right. Good
Go
night,
buy
everybody.
you one, be licensed, get your concealed carry permit. Be legal.
In Texas, you don't need it anymore.
Oh, that's true. But
Right.
in North Carolina, you may need one. So I wish the lady on the train would have had one and dealt 14 times. Time he's been arrested. Yeah, and she would have been victim number 15. And well, she probably is victim number 15 or more. But there probably a lot more that he wasn't arrested for. But yeah, she could have did us all a favor and took care of that situation.
All right. That's it, folks. Good night,
That's it,
everyone.
folks.
We'll see you next week.